or YouTube. So I start off by using my Andis BGRCs, and I have a 5-op blade on there that I use to go ahead and create my first guideline. And that's going to be our bald guideline. That's going to start a little above the ear, and then it's going to be contour to the head and drop down in the back. So after I do the 5-op blade guideline, I go ahead and grab my number 1 Andis ceramic blade, and I do it about an inch above that guideline, and that's just so I know where to fade up to and where my next guideline is going to start. After I use that number 1 ceramic blade, I go ahead and I use my number 2 Andis metal blade, and I'm gonna go ahead and take that all the way up to the long hair. My client's gonna get a part on this side, so he likes it short all the way up to the part. So I do that for the rest of the head, and I take off the rest of the bulk on the back of the head and on the other side of the head also. Okay, so after I'm done taking down all the bulk with that number 2 blade, I'm going to go ahead and take my Andis Masters, and these are the regular Masters, they're not the Fade Masters or anything, but I go ahead and I start fading between that 5-op guideline and that number 1 guideline, and most people call it trigger play. So you're slowly opening up and closing the lever on the side of the clipper just so you get that first guideline out. So between that 5-op and that 1, the Andis Masters no guard will go ahead and take that out easily. So I'm fading it throughout here, slowly closing the lever just so that it'll take out the line, and then I'm going to go ahead and slap on that number 1 Andis magnetic guard, and that's going to go ahead and that's going to blend right into that that number 2 up top with the metal guard, and it's going to fade in from that number 1 metal guard. And then that number one magnetic guard isn't going to take the line fully out, so I do go ahead and go back in with my 0 guard. That's also Andy's magnetic guard, and that basically is going to bring this blend together from the top to the bottom. And as you can see in this video, there are very rare times that I'm using the full blade or the full guard. I usually just use the corner of it depending on what side of the head I'm on and what angle that I have to go at, just because if you're going straight up the whole time, then you're creating another guideline and you're not really fading it out and blending it together. So after I'm done fading the right side of his head, I go ahead and I grab my Andis T Outliners. They're the GTX with the deep tooth blade, and I go ahead and just line up the from the middle to the corner of his head, just to go ahead and put a rough draft on it. And then now what I'm doing is I'm repeating the same steps on the back. I'm starting with my Andis no guard all the way open, and then I'm just going to do some trigger play and bring it down to go ahead and connect that side taper to the back taper. And this is the most important part because most people struggle on the back of someone's head. There are some rolls and everything like that. No one's head's perfect. So after that, once again, I go back in with my number 1 magnetic guard, and I go ahead and start to blend it into that number 2 up top. And then I go back in with my 0 magnetic guard, and I go ahead and take the back of that line out, the bottom guideline. And the left side of his head is going to be the same exact steps as it was on the right side and on the back. So I am going to go ahead and fast forward through that. But you can see basically everything that I'm doing, and you're going to see that fade come together nicely. Then after I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and create that part on the side of his head, and then I'm going to finish his lineup with my GTX. Remember, there's always 2 sides to a line, so I go in the first time with my GTX blade, and I go ahead and I create the line, and then after that I flip the clipper over and I go ahead and straighten out the other line just to make sure that it's symmetrical, everything's the same, and that everything's straight. So what I use is I'm using Pacino shave gel to go ahead and shave his lineup and make sure everything's crispy. And I'm also using Persona double edge blades. Those honestly to me are the best blades that I've used so far, and I've tried everything from derby to shark to those type of blades and everything like that. Just when you're shaving someone, just make sure that you're pulling the skin always and you're using the blade at a 45-degree angle, and don't push too hard on the skin and don't push too hard against the hair, because that shave gel does make it easy to cut and you don't want to go ahead and cut too much out. And then I'm going to go back in with my razor and clean the part up, and you'll see the finished product.